Mr Speaker.
I call the honourable member Todd McLeay.
Mr Speaker, thank you. It gives me pleasure to stand and speak on the Taxation, International Investment and Remedial Matters Bill. Before I go into some of the substance of the bill, I want to recognise the fine speech of my parliamentary colleague Mike Sabin, his maiden speech made just a short time ago. And can I say to Mike Sabin that it's great to see a member who shows feeling and emotion. In fact, I think it shows the strength of so many people that come to this House to represent others and to work hard to make their lives better. And I particularly enjoyed it, as I have speeches yesterday from other members, and I look forward to the coming week or so when we hear from those members that haven't been able to make their maiden statements yet. Can I say, Mr Speaker, I am glad to speak on this bill because the centrepiece of the national government's budget in 2010 was the delivery of a major tax package reform and a reform of the tax system to make it fairer, more sustainable and to offer better support for economic growth. Now, the national government is firmly focused on lifting New Zealand's economic performance, and this bill is another step in that direction. In fact, it's one of a number of measures that were put in place over the last term of government that were started in the last term of government and will continue this time. Can I say that actually I agree with Clayton Cosgrove in as far as his sentiments around small businesses and the need to recognise that for many people in business it is their livelihoods they put on the line, it is their hard work, and for many of them, at least the ones that I have had an opportunity to work with or have met, they pay others and pay their bills and so on often before they put the payments to themselves at the forefront. And so whenever it comes to the work we do in this House, and particularly in our committees around taxation and the need to make sure that there isn't too much regulation placed upon them, that I agree with Mr Cosgrove in his sentiment. Can I say, Mr Speaker, that this bill builds on and extends earlier international tax reforms. We've seen a lot of reform around the tax system over a number of years. Main proposal or component of this bill extends the active income exemption introduced in 2009 to offshore subsidiaries. In short, this is controlled foreign companies, so that it also applies to joint ventures and other significant shareholders in foreign companies that are not controlled by New Zealanders. It also deals with the active income exemption, and it brings New Zealand tax rules into line with the practice of other countries. I think, Mr Speaker, very clearly it helps New Zealand-based businesses to compete more effectively in foreign markets by freeing them from a tax cost that similar companies in other countries don't face. And an example of this would be New Zealand-owned manufacturing plants in parts of Asia, where the government has worked very hard over a number of years to increase trade, to bring down tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers through trade agreements. China as an example, whereas a New Zealand-owned company that might manufacture in China today or in the future will now generally face the same tax rate as other manufacturers operating in China. In brief, Mr Speaker, international tax calculation methods will be rationalised by this bill, exemption for investments in Australia maintained, thin capitalisation rules for investors will be dealt with, and when we come to the committee stages, particularly that last one, I look forward to going into in much greater detail. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
I call Dr Kennedy Graham.
Thank you, Mr Speaker.